What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more The, and we are now embarking on a proper deep dive, which is to say Phil had shared The with me as a Lucky Dip selection, and then Kim shared another tune as part of the playlist Music for an Uneventful Weekend, which I did a couple months ago and was in relation to some ongoing and particularly notable cultural and political themes. And I enjoyed both of those tunes a great deal, and Phil indicated he could make their larger catalog available, so we are here to go through that now. And their first album seems to be Soul Mining from 1983. Now, I did check on Discogs because Kim had talked a lot about Matt Johnson's songwriting, and so when I went on Discogs just to read a little blurb about The, it seems he's the only consistent band member that there has been a rotating door in terms of the other members. So it reminds me of what I understand to be the case with Nine Inch Nails, where it's essentially Trent Reznor always, and then on different albums there's been other different people involved. So yes, either way, this is from 1983, and the opening tune is I've Been Waitin' for Tomorrow All of My Life, which I enjoy the phrasing of that, like waiting for tomorrow. On the surface of it sounds like an optimism for the future, the idea that things are either expected to get better, or at least there's a possibility they could get better, or provide some enjoyment, some inspiration, some communion, shall we say. But the second part of it, the parenthetical part of it, adds a bit of humor and also maybe a slightly more complicated or even negative perception, which is to say, if you've been waiting for tomorrow all of your life, that means whatever you thought might come, whatever could possibly come tomorrow, you're still waiting on it. It hasn't actually happened yet. It's never been today. It's always been tomorrow and tomorrow. I suppose you could read it more generally, just the idea that tomorrow is always the hypothetical, because when you finally get to it, it's today. It's real, and there is physical reality that is almost surely, and in nearly every case, more nuanced and complicated than the theoretical. But yeah, the way I thought of it when I first looked at the title was the idea that you're still waiting for something, hoping something might happen, but it seems like every today is not quite what you thought tomorrow would be. So let's see what I can pick up on a first listen. This is The. It's the first tune from their 1983 album Soul Mining, and it is called I've Been Waiting for Tomorrow All of My Life.
10, 9, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Did we skip 7?
1.
Been defined by emotional scars, and the cancer of love has eaten out my heart. I've been stripped bare and nobody cares, and all the people I've attempted are no longer there. All desires have been denied to put me in this state of mind. Another year over. I'm crippled by guilt, blinded by signs. I've been waiting for tomorrow all of my life.
track to your debut album. Insane. Okay, so first thing that stands out to me is indeed the lyrics, and I think I was somewhat on the right track. The idea that the things he was told from childhood, his childhood dreams as he got older, they were cut down, and what was it, hanging by his knees, and he was filled with a lot of information and, hope or optimism, or perhaps, the preferred cultural and national narratives that as he gets older he realizes, it's more indicative of this mental pollution, the information coming from the mass media and from radio broadcast, and all of it is setting him up with false hopes, and as such his energy has been diluted. He hasn't been able to live out, number one, what he was told he would live out, number two, the world isn't as perfect a place as maybe, he was taught to believe, or as you would be inclined to think if you were to, read newspaper articles and so on. So he feels, in a way, betrayed, and also perhaps liberated from these perspectives, if also in the sense that it's a disappointment, but at least knowing that he can't rely on these, again, national stories and, public educational information that is ultimately more, about telling us what sounds nice rather than what really is. And so it sounds like he's come to a realization that, everything he was taught essentially is a lie, and thus the things that he thought would be accruing and occurring have turned out to be a chimera, sort of a phantasm, something that isn't reality. So in a way, it's, I guess, the first step to, finding out what you can create on your own in a sort of existentialist way. It actually reminds me of a comment that Jello Biafra, a long-time lead singer, or not long time, they weren't around all that long, in their most, let's say, legitimate form, but someone once asked Jello Biafra, like, oh, your songs are all about problems and saying everything that's wrong. Like, isn't that too negative a way to look at the world? And he responded by saying, well, look, the first step to finding a solution for a problem is acknowledging that it exists. It's not sort of, explaining it away or, burying it under the rug. It's confronting it head on, and only by doing that can we start talking seriously about how to ameliorate it or how to overcome it and solve it. So it feels like that's kind of what's happening here, but it is a very, caustic and, sharp-tongued assessment of what the world and, society, and maybe even specifically the older generation promised him and others of his age. And also, I do enjoy, it's like a crazy eccentric kind of synth pop. There's all these different keyboard layers going on, and then there's that driving beat with that big snare drum, so it has a very, powerful percussive intensity, and by the end it's kind of going a bit wild and, almost like it's going off the rails. It reminded me in terms of the eccentricity like some early Thomas Dolby stuff, but with like a muckraking sort of twist to it. So yeah, I very much enjoyed that, especially lyrically, and I also liked his vocals, which seemed to fit the attitude or the emotion of the lyrics quite well. So yes, looking forward to this deep dive. Once again, shout out to both Phil and Kim, who introduced me to the, and we will now go in deeper on that journey. So let me know what you think, and I will see you for the next one. Peace.